Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another Battle to the Death for you. Today we have two very similar knives I'm very eager to compare. We have the Steel Will Resonant and the Real Steel Metamorph. I got the names right the first time. I'm gonna screw it up again later, I assure you. It's too many steels in there. But what we have here are two very nice, pretty reasonably priced, gentlemanly folders with fairly large blades. They're very similar in that way. They're also very similar in the fact that they have aluminum scales on both of them. They're also very similar in that they're both made in China. One by a US-based company and one by a full-on Chinese company. They are also extremely similar in price. These are both almost exactly 60 bucks. They're a few pennies of each other no matter where you look. Somewhere in the 59 to 50 to 59.99 range. So extremely similar priced. And this is a comparison I was very eager to do. Actually, the Resonant comes in another version with carbon fiber scales and titanium and bearings and stuff that's a bit more money. And that's actually probably the one that I really wanted initially, but I thought it's better to compare this one to this, so I got this one instead. And quite happy with it, so not upset that I chose this one instead of the carbon one. Now, let's move on to the rules, explain how these things go. If you've never watched one of these before, we have 7 categories. We have aesthetics, quality, build, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. I assign a winner in each category. We add the scores up at the end, and we pick a winner. All right, let's get into it. Let's do the stats first, get the boring stuff out of the way before we start the fighting. We'll start with the Resonant, because that's the one whose stats I had pulled up. We have an overall length of just a bit over 8 inches, blade length of 3.5 inches, blade thickness of 0.12 inches, so pretty slim as you expect on these kind of gentlemanly folders. You have a weight of 3.2 ounces and a handle thickness of 0.42 inches. All right, let's switch to the Metamorph. Change pages here on my notes. We have, again, overall length just over 8 inches, blade length, again, they say 3.5 inches on the Real Steel site, but you can see when you look on here, when I did the review of it, it's a little more than that. It's I would call it more like 3.6. Blade thickness, again, 0.12 inches. At the thickest point, this has a more pronounced swedge there, so it's really harder to pick up on the camera, I think. But handle thickness, 0.44 inches, so just a hair thicker. Weight is lighter, though, 2.64 ounces. So those are the stats. Now, I'm not going to do any size comparisons because we're comparing these two. These are all half-inch squares, so you can get a pretty good idea of the sizes. Don't want to waste your time with more size comparisons. All right, let's get on to the scored categories. Aesthetically, they're both pretty cool-looking knives. They both look kind of high-tech, future-y. The Metamorph a bit more so, especially when it's closed, because the Metamorph it's that front flipper design, so it just hides everything inside the handle, which is pretty neat. The Metamorph, I know a lot of you might already be thinking, and so am I, gentleman's folder, it's bright frickin' blue, because you think a gentleman's folder being something more discreet. It does come in a gray and another, like a rose gold kind of color also, so there are other color options. I just happened to get the blue one. If I was buying this for gentlemanly carry purposes, I would definitely get the gray. Wish I'd have gotten the gray. Maybe we'll someday, we'll see. But the Metamorph in the aluminum like this, I said it does come in a titanium and carbon fiber version, which is very sexy, but it's a lot more money. It's like 90 bucks, so it's a completely different knife really, and it's a frame lock instead of a liner lock. There are a lot of differences. If you want the aluminum version at this price, this is your only color option. And I guess my thoughts are, it's got this pattern on here, which aesthetically I'm not in love with. I don't hate it, but it's not great. Kind of scaly, wavy thing. And it's got these blue standoffs, which look cool, I guess, for kind of an EDC style knife, but I'm reviewing these as gentleman's folders, and if I want a knife for that purpose, I wouldn't want that blue. And the fact that this comes in more colors, and the controversial waviness, I definitely have to give the win for aesthetics to the Metamorph. It took me a long time to get to a point that you guys knew I was going for, but sorry about that. Quality-wise, the build quality is actually almost exactly the same as far as overall quality. I mean, as far as the feel, the lockup, the blade centering is perfect on both of them. The screws are about the same quality and everything. the build quality is pretty much exactly the same, and this category would be a tie, except for that I took the resonant apart, and I'm glad that I did, just because I wanted to verify something on it, so I opened it up. Everything is free spinning on this, not just the pivot. The standoffs, everything is free spinning, meaning you have to put a wrench on both sides. It's a hassle to take apart. For that reason alone, I have to give the award for quality to the Real Steel Metamorph. So it's 2 for the Metamorph so far. Now we move on to the blade, arguably the most important category. They both slice really well. They're both the same width, and they're both flat grinds. They're both pretty thin behind the edge. I don't really have a problem with either of them cutting or anything like that. I do have to give the win in the blade category, though, to the steel will, just because, and it's D2 versus Sandvik steel, by the way, which it's kind of a wash for me. I think that's about the same kind of quality. The steel, the Sandvik's going to be a little easier to sharpen, but the D2 is probably going to hold its edge a bit longer, and the Sandvik's more corrosion resistant, which is great. But as far as heavier duty stuff, which isn't necessarily what this is made for, the D2 is a little bit better, which leads me on to think I think this is just a more capable blade. I do like the blade on this. I have no problem with it, but even the designer himself, Ostap Hell, said this is a light duty design knife, and the blade is a light duty kind of blade. You can see it's very, very small, it's a very short, height blade, and it's very thin and slicey. Where this, I think, is capable of a lot more EDC kind of things with the D2 and the bigger blade. I got to go with, for blade, I have to go with the Resonant. This is just a more all-around capable knife. We'll get to that more in the conclusion. Now, ergonomically, in the next category, the Metamorph got a couple of knocks, but I said in my review, and I still stand by, I think this is really good ergonomically. Yes, it is a slippery handle. There's no texturing on the handle whatsoever, but the jimping from the liner lock and the jimping here on top of the blade, I think holds my hand pretty well. I don't really have any ergonomic issues with it. It is a good long handle. You definitely have plenty of room. It's a little, it doesn't fill your hand as much, but it's okay. It's fine. I have no problems with the ergonomics on it. But the ergonomics on this are really good, and it's much grippier with all that texturing, even grippier still. You can choke up and use this cool little flipper deployment. Has some jimping on the side of it, so if you just kind of rotate your thumb around a little bit, you've got some good jimping for detail work, and it's just overall fills your hand more, and it's grippier. Ergonomically, got to give it again to the Resonant. So we are 2 and 2 right now. Now in the carry, this one's going to have a bit of an asterisk to it because they're both very slim handles. This is a little slimmer than the Metamorph, but the Metamorph is obviously smaller in other dimensions when you're carrying it. Absolutely, there's no doubting of that. This moves off to the side of your pocket a bit more, the Metamorph does, than the Resonant does, but they're both fine getting into your pocket. They're not something you hardly even notice carrying. They're both light. This is a bit lighter, but I would give it to the Metamorph, except for the fact that the Resonant has a deep carry pocket clip, which I'm a sucker for deep carry pocket clips, so that makes it a tie, with an asterisk. That asterisk being that Ostap Hell, the designer of this knife, who designed it for Real Steel, replied just mere minutes ago, before I started recording this review, and I'm glad he did, to my review of the Metamorph, and said, because I complained about not having a deep carry clip, and he said that they're working on it. So there's going to be a deep carry clip for this. I don't know if just the next version is going to have it, or if they're going to be available later, or whatever. But if this was the deep carry clip version, the Metamorph would win this category hands down. As it is right now, it is a tie, because there is a fair bit sticking up for a kind of gentlemanly sort of knife. So tie for now is what we're going to call that one. Now, in deployment, not a tie. I knew which one was going to win this before I even started. The Resonant deploys fine. I like these little kind of jimpy thumb stud deployments on it. It's really good, but it's only running on one phosphor bronze bushing and one Teflon bushing. They work really well. It's very, very smooth. The lockup is very good on it. It's easy to get a hold of that lock bar to close it on the frame lock or the liner lock. It's fine. It's great. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But the Metamorph is one of the funnest knives to play with that I have ever owned. Maybe it's got that cool front flipper, which does not take long at all to learn. It's kind of unusual, but this is, if you want your first front flipper, this is the one. A, it's not too pricey. B, it runs on roller bearings, not just ball bearings, fancy pants roller bearings. The D10 is perfect, and it's super easy. You can open it a myriad of ways. I'm not going to even try to do that with the camera in the way, but I even open it two-handed sometimes just to be weird. It's a very, very fun knife to sit and play with, and the closer on it, it just falls shut. It's just beautiful. I love the deployment on this. This is not even a huge win deployment-wise for the Metamorph. This is fine, but it just went up against the best. So, sorry, Steel Will. Value. They're both, as I said, exactly the same price. The Metamorph has more whiz-bang features. It's got roller bearings. It's got kind of a bit more of a future-y design. You can get more colors, so it would be easy to say when, you know, to the Metamorph, but Steel Will, if I have a problem with one of these two, Steel Will is a company I'd much rather be dealing with. I haven't had to deal with Real Steel yet, but they are a full-on Chinese company. Steel Will, at least, is American-based, so it's easier to get a hold of somebody. I have never had to use Steel Will's warranty department, but I know some who have, and they've taken care of them. They've been great. So Steel Will's warranty is a known quantity. I don't know much about Real Steel's, and they're the exact same price, and other than the roller bearings, pretty much feature for feature, bang for bang. Like I said, they're both aluminum scales, all that stuff. They're both similar in a whole lot of ways. I'm going to have to call it a tie. But that brings us to our conclusion, to the end. The winner by score is the Metamorph 3-2 with 2 ties. So the Metamorph is the winner by score, and I think if you are looking at a gentlemanly sort of knife, which is what I am judging these by, yep, that's probably the better choice, especially not in neon blue. But I will say, if you want a gentlemanly knife that's you can also just EDC around, then the Resident's a better choice. It fills that gentleman's knife role in your collection, also fills the role of a lightweight EDC. So it fills 2 boxes. So if you're looking for that, I totally see why you'd get this instead. I will say, a spoiler alert, I have a $250 5-knife challenge coming up, and if you buy 5 knives for $250, and the Resonance one I picked for that because it fills 2 roles. It fills my role of having, if I only had 5 knives for that much money, I can gentlemanly carry this, and I can also use it as just a general all-around lightweight EDC. So, for its intended purpose, the Metamorph, for the purposes we're doing this review, the Metamorph, but I could see why you would pick this if you wanted to have a more kind of all-arounder. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this review. I know you guys like the Metamorph. People talk about it all the time. They are available on Blade HQ right now. They're pretty hard to find lots of places. They go out as soon as they come in. It's been a very popular knife for very good reason. And thank you again so much for Ostap Hell, for the designer, for participating and responding to me on commenting on the video, and subscribed, I think, too. So cool. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a good one. I've been Brian. Talk to you later.